Welcome, my friends. The soul that feels like it is constantly fighting against a fierce, invisible current, wearing a heavy mask of strength while secretly wondering how much longer it can stay afloat. If you are carrying a silent weight in the dark tonight, let these words wrap around you like a warm, comforting blanket. Let me take you on a journey to a high, wind-swept mountain pass where a deep, violent canyon split two ancient kingdoms apart. For centuries, the gorge below was filled with a roaring, merciless river that crashed against jagged rocks with a terrifying force. The people desperately needed a way to cross, so the wealthiest rulers sent their greatest, most celebrated architects to build a bridge. These proud builders arrived with massive wagons filled with pristine, perfectly square-cut white granite blocks. They spent years measuring, polishing, and cementing these flawless stones together, building a massive, towering, completely rigid bridge that looked majestic and unshakable under the sun. The rulers rejoiced, believing they had finally conquered the wild canyon. But every winter, the mountain snows would melt all at once, turning the river below into a raging, monstrous flood. The violent waters and howling winds would slam into the flat, rigid stone walls of the bridge with absolute fury. Because the bridge was completely stiff and refused to yield a single inch, the immense pressure would build up inside the granite blocks until a deep, thundering crack echoed through the valley. In a matter of minutes, the perfect structure would shatter and collapse into the rushing abyss below. Year after year, the finest minds built the most flawless bridges, and year after year, the rigid perfection was pulverized by the raw power of the storm. The villagers grew completely hopeless, believing the canyon was a curse that could never be tamed. Then, from a tiny, moss-covered hut at the very base of the mountain, stepped an elderly, quiet stonemason named Master Kael. He was a man of few words, his hands deeply lined with the maps of a long life, and his eyes reflecting a quiet wisdom that money could never buy. He offered to build a bridge that would cross the chasm permanently. The young, educated architects laughed at him when they saw him arrive at the canyon edge. He brought no heavy machinery, no teams of workers, and absolutely no tools to cut or shape stone. Instead, Kael walked down into the dangerous, freezing riverbed alone. He spent months simply walking along the banks, searching for the most uneven, mismatched, and battered rocks he could find. He collected stones that had been cracked wide open by ancient landslides, rocks strangely warped by deep currents, and pieces jaggedly chipped by time. The proud builders watched from the cliffs above, shaking their heads in mockery. They told Kael that a bridge made of broken, mismatched stones would look like a pile of ugly garbage and would collapse under its own weight before the first autumn rain. Kael never looked up, and he never argued. He worked in complete, peaceful silence. He began to build the bridge's arch stone by stone, but he did something completely revolutionary. Instead of forcing the rocks into perfect squares, he spent hours rotating each broken stone, carefully finding how the unique, jagged curve of one wounded rock could slide into and lock perfectly with the hollow fracture of another. He allowed their imperfections to become their interlocking strength. Most strangely of all, Kael intentionally left narrow, open gaps between the rocks, refusing to seal the spaces with heavy mortar. When the bridge was finished, it looked wild, uneven, and deeply flawed, resembling a natural mountain ridge rather than a man-made creation. The young apprentices sneered, predicting its immediate ruin. Then came the dreaded winter thaw. A massive, historic storm hit the mountain pass, and the river rose to a terrifying height, turning into a roaring wall of black mud and crushing ice. The entire village gathered on the cliffs, holding their breath, waiting for Kael's uneven bridge to be torn to shreds by the water's impact. But as the violent torrent slammed into the structure, a miracle unfolded. Because the stones were already rough and rounded by the wilderness, the crashing water didn't hit a flat, rigid wall. Instead, the currents flowed smoothly around the natural, imperfect curves of the rocks, losing their destructive power. And because Kael had left intentional gaps throughout the arch, the terrifying mountain winds and rushing river spray passed safely and easily through the open spaces of the bridge instead of pushing against it. The bridge did not break because it did not fight the storm, it simply allowed the storm to pass through its empty spaces. While the rigid, flawless structures of the past were completely destroyed, the mismatched, broken stone bridge stood completely unbothered, becoming the only permanent crossing to ever survive the canyon. My beautiful friends, let us share a quiet, honest guftugu about this truth tonight. I want you to take a long, gentle look at your own life through the lens of that whispering stone bridge. How many times have you broken your own spirit trying to be like those rigid, flawless granite blocks? You exhaust your precious energy trying to build a perfect, unshakable wall around your life, your emotions, and your vulnerabilities. You tell yourself that you must never show a single crack, that you must never let anyone see your empty spaces, and that you must always be strong, always certain, and always flawless for the world around you. But absolute rigidity is exactly what causes us to shatter when the heavy storms of life arrive. When you experience unexpected loss, sudden heartbreak, or the paralyzing weight of deep anxiety, the pressure builds to a breaking point because you are trying to stand perfectly still and fight the entire force of the river by yourself. Your cracks, your vulnerabilities, and the spaces where you feel completely empty tonight are not your weaknesses, they are your survival. When you finally give yourself permission to be beautifully human, when you open up those hidden spaces and let your true emotions pass through you instead of suppressing them, you become completely unbreakable. You do not need a flawless, unblemished life to be deeply valuable or remarkably strong. You just need to realize that your rough edges, your past hurts, and the pieces of your story that do not fit into the world's shallow standards are the exact things that allow you to lock into a deeper, truer connection with other human souls. A person who has a perfectly smooth, unbothered life can never truly understand your pain, but a heart that has been battered by the storm can offer real, life-saving shelter. Stop trying to fight the fierce currents of life with a rigid wall of perfection. Let down the exhausting shield you have been carrying for so long. Allow the winds of change to pass through your open spaces without tearing your spirit down. Breathe in the absolute, beautiful peace of knowing that it is entirely okay to be mismatched, it is okay to have gaps, and it is okay to still be healing. You are a living, breathing masterpiece of resilience, held together by the very hands of experience. So, as you lay your tired head down on your pillow tonight, let go of the exhausting pressure to look perfect to a world that doesn't see your soul. Breathe in the comfort of knowing that your broken pieces do not make you damaged, they make you profoundly deep, real, and powerful. Take a slow, deep breath, close your eyes, and rest your heart in absolute, tranquil silence. Thank you for walking this path with us tonight. If your soul found a home and a moment of peace in these words, ensure you are subscribed so we can continue sharing these quiet journeys together. Take care of your beautiful spirit, protect your inner peace, and until our paths cross again, peace be upon you.